Welcome to A Parent's Guide to Child Development. I'm your host, Anna-Marie Von Burley from Fledgling's Flight. Each podcast, we strive to give parents the tools they need to help their child thrive through conversations with experts in child development and psychology, where you can learn about the most important information that you didn't know existed. What does it really mean for a toy to be safe? And how can parents strike the right balance between protecting their children and giving them the freedom to take healthy risks during play? Today's guest, Dr. Sara Muršić, is here to help us rethink toy safety from the ground up. As the founder of Toyscope and a specialist in special education and parent-child attachment play, she's developed a powerful framework that distinguishes between safe play, brave play, and dangerous play. She's also leading innovative research into mouthing behaviors beyond toddlerhood, helping families better understand what is typical and what might need support. Sara joins us today to share her insights and give parents the tools they need to make us confident and informed choices. Welcome, Sara. It's so great to have you here. Let's start with how you found your way into the world of toy safety.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's really an honor and a pleasure to be here and to be able to talk about my passion. And how I found my way into toy safety is quite a complex story. I don't think anyone really finds their way. They're either thrown into toy safety by life situation, or I came into it from a different angle. My background is in special education, like you've said, and I've done a lot in education, child development, assistive technology as well. And recently, 4 years ago, I became an auntie, and that made me apply all I know into toys and how to best match the toy to a child and how to choose and how to keep it safe, essentially. It wasn't all beautiful and nice and flowery from the start, I have to say. As a fresh auntie, I thought I know how to do this because, PhD in education should solve that. Silly me. But actually what happened is I got my niece a toy, a dummy holder, a dummy clip, which had those little balls that they chew on. And I thought that was a good choice. I didn't know enough about it. And of course, that item broke into many pieces, and many of these tiny silicone balls were all on the living room. And of course, my sister got a bit upset because I should know better. And I returned the argument with, you should know better. She's an expert she's a medical doctor. And after these emotions have settled, we realized that neither myself nor did she get enough or any training in toy safety. A little bit concerning because it makes me think, who is supposed to then know about it? But, I had two choices. I could either then be the one that moans about it online and just, does nothing about it, or I could actually go explore it and share what I know so far. That's the path I went. And here I am with Toyscope, where as soon as, I've started this journey, which is essentially also my learning journey, there were so many interested parents who simply don't have the time to explore that because, toy regulations are not written for tired parents. It's, rims and rims and pages of essentially lawyers lingo and different numbers and, it's standards. It's not written in a format that's accessible. And that became my mission to translate it into something that parents and educators and therapists and everyone who works with children, aunties like myself, can apply in their everyday life. So that's how I ended up in toy safety. It's quite a complex story, but yeah, I believe everyone finds their way here somehow.
Amazing. Thank you for that. Some risk is good for children. What makes some types of play safe, brave, or dangerous?
That's an excellent question. So risk is beneficial, but hazards are not. And problem we have today is that not enough people can differentiate between risk and hazard. And whilst in me starting this work, I was focusing on explaining people the difference between risk and hazard so that they can judge what is risky. I've noticed that this is quite a hard difficult thing to do. And rather than teaching people some theory and some very technical terms, we can just change terminology and call it safe, brave, and dangerous. It is very intuitive, because if you say to yourself and you question, is this child ready to be brave today? Is that child ready to do something brave? Am I ready to be brave? Or am I too tired or too distracted or not available today? That is a lot more accessible language than it would be to say risky. Risky is correct, technically correct. And exactly like you said, it is beneficial. But when we differentiate safe, brave, and dangerous, the key difference stands between brave and dangerous. That's the fine line that's often so difficult to balance and to pinpoint where it is. But there are many ways to differentiate. If you want me to explain simply, so let's look at each group and I'll give you maybe an example. That would be probably what's appropriate. So for a child, let's say safe play is when they find that climbing frame that they've climbed in their local playground almost every day and they're climbing on it. That should be safe because you as a parent have seen it done before. There's maybe soft landing pads around or something like that, and that climbing frame is appropriate for their age, so it doesn't evoke that feeling of nervousness maybe in you or in a child. Now brave would be when that child attempts monkey bars for the first time. It goes on and tries a monkey bar exercise. You would be there to support, to spot for them, to check the ground if it's gravel or something. So that is brave, both for you and for the child. Not necessarily dangerous, because we're getting a lot of benefit from proprioception, from vestibular input. We're getting strength exercises. We're getting emotional regulation of that feeling that they can do difficult big things. And finally, dangerous play would be if we are in a playground that has damaged equipment. So something like sharp metal edges poking on the side. That is not beneficial at all. It poses a risk, a hazard really, but it doesn't give anything back. It is just pure risk, and we cannot balance it well or manage it well with our support. We can support all we want, but that metal pointy end is still going to be there and potentially hurt the child. So I hope that clarifies it a little bit, but we're going to talk through the podcast, and there will be more examples on how this goes with play.
So I was trying to think while you were speaking about another example of what it might look like for those types of play. And correct me if I'm wrong. So in my mind, I was thinking like if a child goes up a ladder and goes down a slide, that's safe. If the child climbs up the slide, which it says maybe it's not one of those big 10-foot slides, but maybe let's say it's one of those little ones that are about maybe 3 feet off the ground, and then they go to the top, but they, instead of sliding down, they jump off the ladder, but it's a padded area or it's got full of wood chips or something like that. So if they land oddly, that they're not going to hurt themselves. But then dangerous would be if they climbing up to that slide and they're jumping off and there's broken glass at the bottom. Is
Yeah,
that like a safe, brave, and dangerous?
really hard to say where the line would be because
Yeah.
every child is different, every situation is different, depending on where you are, how far you are. Are you on your phone? Are you straight there? And what has that child done before? If that child jumped off that slide several times before and they are confident with height and speed and stability and their muscles, that could be safe play as well. So it's about knowing the child, and that's why the framework is so flexible, because children are so different. And in my work, I had that pleasure of meeting a lot of different children and a lot of different families who feel differently about different types of play and situations. So it's important that we're flexible there and that we respect and honor every family unit, every situation, every community, and how they work. It's hard to say what is what so clearly.
Okay, fair enough. So safety isn't just about the toy itself or the situation in which the child is playing, but about the child, the situation, and the adult's capacity to supervise. How can parents learn to make those real-time decisions when to step in and when to let their child explore a little further?
Wow, big question. Well, I want to share a little story because people, when they see me and what I talk about, they think that this comes naturally to me. And this is something that just comes, from within. But actually, when I was younger and when I started working, I was described as absolutely risk oblivious. I would be that person that comes into the room and says, yeah, it's safe, of course, it's all fine, until I'm seeing absolute chaos and realize, oh, okay, that might have not have been as safe. So that was me. That was me not long ago, a few years ago. And my head teacher said that can absolutely be learned, and you're now in charge of risk assessment. So I had to learn it, and I've proven in my own example that this can be learned. You can train your eye to see risks and hazards, to recognize them, and you can at the same time train your, I don't know, mind or heart to trust the ability and to empower yourself and your child to take some risks. But mainly, it is about judging probability of something happening and severity of something happening. So the two questions you need to ask yourself is so what's the chance of this happening? What's the chance of them falling down? What's the chance of something terrible happening? And how terrible will it be? So, what's the result of it? Will they break a bone? Or will they choke? Or are they in life danger? Those are the key questions, because sometimes we are afraid of things that are not as dangerous, but at the same time, we're completely oblivious to things that might be life threatening. To give you an example, a very, very common example that I see often, especially when we're talking about toddlerhood, you see parents in soft play rooms where everything is padded and they're hovering around their child, holding them almost every step of the way. But those same parents, some of them, maybe don't have secure furniture at home. Furniture is not secure to the wall, which could kill a child. So the danger in soft play is a lot lower, but due to all the other factors, be it social environment or something else, we tend to be focusing on the wrong risks. So it's not necessarily about recognizing all the risks, reacting to all the risks, but knowing which ones are good for their development, which ones we can just say, live your life, it's good, or which ones could technically or possibly end in a catastrophe, in a tragedy, and us spending hours in emergency rooms. So yeah, some of my teachers said that comes with experience, but I wouldn't want to leave that to chance. So I've learned basically how risk assessments are done and how I can, train my eye and train my heart to deal in those situations with what's in front of me.
Awesome. What does the research tell us about how engaging in brave play affects a child's long-term confidence, resilience, or emotional regulation?
Risky play is not a new thing in research. There is a lot of research, pedagogy, and in children development and early years field. They all research risky play from different corners. There is research on benefits and impacts of risky play on children. There's also research on how and what kind of risky play do children actually involve themselves in, because by definition, risky play is spontaneous. It is something that initiated by a child. So we can't really do it ourselves. You can't introduce it to a child. But in terms of what research says, in terms of benefits, there is a lot of benefits, starting from physical benefits, because risky play would be height play. So playing in higher levels, climbing frames or trees, which evokes that feeling of a risk and fear. Speed play, so running really fast or driving a bike but faster than usual. Those are those exciting, joyous feelings that we get from risky play. So for all of those, we get physical benefits, don't we? Of building our muscles, knowing our limits, understanding these differences, travel, and all of those things. Then on the other side, we have cognitive benefits, which is problem solving. So I climbed up really high on the tree, and now I need to problem solve how I'm going to come down. And also resilience in this is, in my opinion, one of the biggest and most important benefits of risky play, because you can learn problem solving through other mediums. But what risky play gives us, and nothing else does, is that internal feeling of I am capable of doing hard, difficult things. I can be afraid and do something, or I am capable of feeling fear and working through fear and succeeding, or if something doesn't go well, I am still me, I'm still safe, I can still do these things. So big emotions, big, exciting, fearful sometimes things that children go through help them build understanding of the world, but also internal world, their emotional regulation. Um, Without going into too much depth of like numbers and who did what and how, I understand that, since you're in Canada and I'm in Europe, I believe that parents in both continents often look at maybe Norwegians and Scandinavian countries as a way forward in terms of child development and pedagogy. So one of my favorite studies on this is done by Norwegian team who watched, and I think like 900 1,000 videos of children playing spontaneously in the kindergartens and nurseries, and they have connected it to physical well-being and mental well-being. And they were talking about risks not necessarily being done as safe as possible, but actually as safe as necessary. We need to be able to ensure that our children are as safe as necessary, and that they have certain window where they can test the limits and do challenging things and discover something new, be afraid, and impress themselves with their abilities. So it's really, really good piece of research. But in terms of what you have in Canada, you have a lovely expert called Suzanne Bino. She, together with your Canadian Pediatric Society, released a report, I'm not completely sure when, I think quite recently, which highlights risky play as a way to develop problem solving, like we said, resilience in young children and young people as well. So it's quite a popular thing at the moment, I think rightfully, because we need to balance both sides, safety and braveness, and make sure that we allow children to show what they know and what they can.
So we're actually based in Los Angeles.
Oh,
So
sorry.
we are a little bit different than Canada. It would be really fascinating to
How
see
did I
what
connect you to Canada?
I don't know, because I'm so
Oh,
nice.
sorry.
But and I think the difference between I personally, and I have not been to Canada, and I also do not know necessarily their um outlook on risky play, but I'm going to guess it's very different here in the United States, which leads
Is
me
it
to my
more
next
safe?
question, because
Huh?
I think this might change your perception. Like,
Mhm.
how have societal perceptions in risk in childhood play changed over the last few decades? And do you think we've become too safety obsessed? And I'm thinking that Americans are way more safety obsessed than Canadians are, because we're so litigious, right? So there's so many people suing other people because somebody got hurt. And I don't think you have that same type of reflex with people in Canada.
Interesting. Interesting. We're learning something every day. Well, in terms of toy safety and play safety, we have a lot more regulations than we have or we had 10 years ago or 15 years ago. But unfortunately, we still have really high numbers of injuries as well. And that shows us that it's not just regulation that's at play here. For every product, there is regulation in manufacturing, so responsibility of those who produce the toy itself. But there is also the other side, so user behavior, right? Parents who are buying toys who have the responsibility to read the labels, but we know not many do, or they think that it doesn't apply to their child, and so on and so on. But then we also have the third side, which is children themselves. How do they use the toy? And we know children are super creative, aren't they? Toddlers will surprise us every day with something new. You think you've secured the whole house, and then suddenly you'll find out that there are some magical way of using the spoon that can hurt them. Yeah, there is so much at play. It's something that we call like a very complex problem, tangled issue, which has so many stakeholders in it, and each of those stakeholders has a different definition of success. So in the UK, we have OPSS, which regulates toys and does recalls. You have in USA a different agency that does recalls for the entirety of USA, and they essentially their goal is to have blanket solution that will ensure that majority of children are safe. It can never be perfectly safe, and we know it. And it can never be some solution that satisfied both groups, because children will want those cool toys for older children who might be dangerous for them. And the whole problem gets a lot more complex. But the truth is, like I've said, we have at the moment a lot more regulation, but that regulation, I wouldn't say it's not policed. It is policed, it is regulated, and our agencies are doing a fantastic job. However, the pace of the world of manufacturing, of new toys coming out, of cheaper toys being produced and being designed every minute of every day makes this job very, very difficult. But going back to what you asked originally, so have we become safety obsessed? I would say we are a lot more focused on children in general than we were before. So someone in speech and language therapist could be asked, are we obsessed with communication, early communication? Are we obsessed with, physical development? Are we obsessed with this and that? We are generally more focused on every segment of the development of a child. So of course, there's a lot more being said about this in the media and being said in all different channels, including this podcast. That's not necessarily a bad thing. It's about how we consume advice, who we take advice from, and how do we then apply it to ourselves. Because those who are very risk aware will naturally lean towards advice that's very much safety focused, and those who are not so risk aware might actually like someone talking about freedom of play and risky play and how it should all be more free. We need to be more critical of our own feelings and our own position, and try to balance ourselves out. Problem for me starts because when I talk a lot about toy safety, I often don't get parents that I need to get in these courses, those who might need to think about toy safety. I get mothers who are already doing everything in their power in terms of ensuring safety. And for them, I very quickly need to change the story to include more maybe brave play and more free opportunities. It's a very complex issue, so it's a question that could be discussed in a whole nother podcast episode. But safety is a big deal. And it is a big deal for a reason, because some of the risks we have now, we didn't have before. The way some toys are manufactured with cheap materials, we didn't have that before. So some of the risks are becoming invisible, and our children are becoming more and more creative in their use. So I would say, even if there is more safety talk, maybe there's not enough yet. Until I see the numbers of injuries dropping, we're not obsessed. That's my position.
Okay, fair enough. Can you speak to how trauma, either in the parent or the child, might influence what feels safe during play?
So trauma and personal experiences do dictate how we feel about safety. But let's be real about this. Risky play is beneficial for children but so are a million other things that parents are doing day in, day out for their children. This might be just that one thing that makes you feel insecure. And in those situations, you actually need to take care of yourself first. I think whilst I am a big supporter of brave play and free play opportunities and ensuring the environment is safe and then letting children explore, I can do that from my position that is quite calm and free in that sense. But I also understand that many other parents have went through different experiences, and it is brewing in them when they see a child even climbing the slide or something. That feeling is something that your child can sense as well. So it's, I think, futile to try and hide it, try and push it down, try and work against your instinct. But actually, you can harness other opportunities and other people and other activities that your child can do where they can practice this. It doesn't necessarily need to push you to your limit. I think it's not always about the child. We also need to talk a lot about parents, their well-being, being a in order to be a good parent, you need to be good and well within. And this is part of it, because you'll feel very, very quickly if you are going over your own boundaries of what is safe. You can, of course, train that feeling in you, slowly exposing yourself to different risks, seeing your child ability, trying with something small, one step at a time, and saying, oh, okay, I was a little bit afraid of this, but child is quite confident. Let's remember that for next time, and let's move one step further. So tiny baby steps is a good idea, but I know that's easier said than done, because our children don't do risks in small tiny steps. They feel the need to explore and they go for it. You can do it in small little steps, but you should respect yourself, your boundaries, and it's going to make you a calmer and a better parent, I think. I need to take a little bit of a different stance here, because I think parents are so important in children's life that if they are not well, if they are scared, or if they're nervous or anxious, children can feel that, and they will mark that activity as something that's bad or something that we should be afraid of.
Thank you for that. That's amazing. What are some common toys or play scenarios that parents think are safe, but might actually present hidden risks?
So I would highlight some things that cause the most injuries. Okay. So in the age group up to, let's say, 5 years old, the biggest issue is definitely small objects and toys. So this will bring a risk of choking. So any small object, if it's smaller than 3 centimeters for a child, up to 3, that's the red kind of a general rule. But of course, children are different, and even older children will continue to mouth and put stuff into their mouth. You can check that very easily. I don't have it with me here, but the tester for small things, small objects, is a little tube that has a diameter around 3 centimeters, a little bit less. And that's a very similar size as a toilet roll tube. So if you have a toilet roll tube, try and push an object through it. If it goes through, it will go through children's mouth as well. So that's a very simple way to check those small objects. Of course, risk of choking is one thing, but there are some added risks. For example, magnets and button batteries. I cannot have a toy safety talk without button batteries and magnets. So you've probably heard this before, but I always say it's never enough times to mention it until we stop having injuries. So button batteries in any kind of toy that dances, flashes lights, sings, or any kind of movement and things, that's usually powered by a battery. Batteries can be stored and secured in those containers and flaps that have screws on top. That's a safer option. But don't forget that around the house you have, for example, flameless candles or some objects that are meant for adults, which might not be secured in that way. remotes for telly and things that often does not have little screws on it. So check all those objects which will have batteries in them and ensure that they are either screwed together so they won't open, or that they're out of reach and have a good place, easy place to store where you will then be removing it from the child. Another thing that I mentioned are magnets, because it's quite a popular toy. It's in many different toys. I mean, there is a lot of safety guidance around magnets now, even for older children and teens, because there was a lot of injuries with swallowing magnets. That's the key issue. Even for teenagers, you would think they won't put it in their mouth. They won't. But there was a TikTok trend where you would pretend you have a piercing on your tongue. And that means two magnets are at the same time in your mouth. And as soon as they go in, it can cause a lot of damage and perforation between the intestines. So what happens with magnets, right? You have one is actually okay, could pass through. But if you have two, they will find each other inside of your body. And if they're too strong, they will perforate your organs. And that definitely means a surgery. The only thing that's worse than that are button batteries, because they cause chemical reaction and burns inside children's intestines. And within an hour, 2, 3, that can cause a lot of damage and death within 24 hours. So if you even suspect that there is an ingestion of a battery, call emergency services, tell them, and they're very, very happy if it's a false call. Honestly, if they check everything, they do the scans and there is no battery, trust me, everyone is very happy with that. But often it's not the case. So if you can, check all the items with the batteries, remove them, move them around, make sure that they're, that they're, what do you call it? Correctly closed. And if you're buying new toys and your child is excited to have them as soon as possible, please don't break those screws that are ensuring the packaging of the batteries. That we see often on the Christmas day when you open a toy and they want to play with it straight away, but you need at least 5 minutes to unscrew the top, to put the batteries in, to screw the top back on. Do that work. That's the safety mechanisms that actually saved so many lives. So those are some of the biggest. I could go on and on and on, but I think small objects, batteries and magnets, that's something that causes a lot of injuries. And those injuries are a lot more severe than maybe, breaking a bone or something like that.
How can having too many toys create safety problems for families?
Um, it can. And I've seen that recently with a friend. She follows everything I do and she is really careful in her choices of toys. So there was a lot of toys and they're all safe toys, I have to say. However, what is happening and what I've seen straight when I came in is first of all, tripping hazard. She is carrying her baby and there's lots of different toys on the floor. She could trip together with her baby, which is a hazard. But then also something that we don't talk about enough, and that's that toy overwhelm, the clutter that happens. And it's a stress that not only bugs the child, but actually parents will feel that too. And practically speaking, if you have 5 toys, that's 5 toys that you need to clean, 5 toys that you need to store, and 5 toys that you need to regularly check. But if you have 55 toys, time needed for cleaning, storing, checking multiplies. And that automatically means that parents won't have time to regularly check if these toys are still in the great condition like when we bought them. Are they still safe? Are they broken? Do batteries stick around? Things like that. And often, children play better with less toys. We know that from research as well. So it's a difficult thing because we want to give children as much as possible, especially because, I don't know about you, but when I was younger, we didn't have many of these toys. So partially, I would buy them because I want to see them, but also for the kids. And we have, of course, very well-meaned maybe grandparents who are bringing in toys with the best intention and friends and everyone. So toys do multiply very quickly. And it's important to know which ones we keep, which ones we either gift to someone else or donate or sell on, or what is that life cycle of a toy going to be in your home. That's going to definitely improve the safety, but also stress levels of the parent. So it's really important.
How do you recommend adults introduce the idea of brave play to children? Do you talk about it directly, or is it more about modeling and scaffolding?
It's difficult. You can't really introduce brave play. It will happen. It happens when the child is ready. Brave play, by definition, is a type of play that, children self-engage with. And they will show you what they want to test. Is it speed? Is it height? Is it a new tool? Is it some kind of rough play? It's difficult to introduce, I would say. But what you can do is, for example, narrate the levels of difficulty. That's something that I've introduced parents to in one of the workshops where we were trying to talk about different things we can say. So children will learn risk assessment slowly, especially around the age of 4, 5, 6, when they're anyway talking around everything they do. So you can say, today, this morning, I can see it's raining outside. Oh no, it's going to be slippery. So I have decided we're not going to go to that park where there's something slippery, but actually we're going to go somewhere else where there is, some other type of play or something else. You can say what you decided and why and how you got to it. That's the part that we don't really discuss with children. We just say what we've decided and it is as it is. But actually, if we say exactly how our decision process went, we can help them later down the line make that decision. The other option is to maybe introduce, if you know already that it's maybe raining and it could be slippery, you could ask them before, how do penguins walk on the slippery ice? And then you come out and, oh my goodness, look, what a great opportunity to practice penguin walk. And then child will explain you how to penguin walk and why it's important and how you can slip and what happens if you slip. So talking with your children about not only happy, lovely, cartoon themes, but actually normal life situations, what we do, what we don't do, why we do it that way. Those are some ways that you can slowly introduce maybe risks before they happen, right? But you can't force it. Your child will do it exactly when they feel ready. What you can and should do is to ensure the environment. Because again, I like to talk about the difference between brave play and dangerous play, because the difference in play itself is not very visible. What's different is the environment and our support and maybe a tool that they're playing with. So, if child is throwing something, it could be dangerous if they're throwing something with edges and something hard, it could hit someone. But if they're throwing, bath poof or something, their play is exactly the same. Play value is the same. They're still learning about trajectories, but you have ensured that it's not dangerous play, but brave play. You've made a swap, but that swap did not change play value for them. So that's the goal we're trying to aim here. And I know it's not applicable to all situations, because not always you have 3 different slides in height. Sometimes you have to take charge and ensure safety. But in terms of making dangerous play less dangerous, it's often that the answer is in the environment and what is around them and where we are and how we can support it.
Amazing. Most toys have age recommendations and warning labels, but we know that not all children develop the same way or pace. So, what is your advice for parents regarding age recommendations?
Age warnings and age recommendations are not the same thing, and it's really important to differentiate them. So, age warnings Most famous and common one is the one that says it's not for children under the age of 3. That is really important because that toy has certain elements, be it size or material, that's not suitable for the type of play that young children involve themselves in. So what's important to know there is that we need to be thinking about not only age, but also stage or development of our child. Not all children develop in the same way, in the same tempo. And in my work, I see a lot of children who are either delayed in development or develop in a spiky profile, as we call it. So some areas are more developed and some maybe less. That means that maybe we have a child who is 5 years old but still puts stuff in their mouth, and there you think you're doing the right thing because you're buying a toy for 4-year-old, but those toys are not tested to maybe saliva contact or being put in the mouth, because a typical developing child would stop mouthing items around 2 years old. So by 3 they stop that kind of behavior. It's a very difficult thing to decide on, because warnings and labels are created in a way that helps the majority of people. If we add the variability of our development, the disabilities and neurodiversity, sensory profiles, it creates such chaos that we wouldn't be able to actually label things. So this is unfortunately still predominantly responsibility of parents and carers and grandparents and educators to choose the right toy for the right child. One thing that I like to mention here is keep in mind not only the child you're buying this toy for, but also potential siblings or someone else who is in the house or in the space, because injuries don't often happen with toys that are aimed at the right child, but actually you have 2 siblings. One is younger, one is older, and of course the younger one wants to play with whatever older one is playing with. Example here would be Legos. So you have Lego bricks, which classic bricks are not suitable for children under the age of 4. They've put 4 because they want to be sure with that little difference in development. But you have the whole series in their line, which is Duplos, which are bigger and they are suitable for younger children. I tend to recommend parents to keep with Duplos for longer if you have an older child, because the play value, again, is the same. You're building a tower equally with the bigger bricks and with the smaller bricks. So you can actually play well with something that's safer and still allow that fun, that development, that connecting feeling, and fun time and around the whole family.
How can caregivers adapt your toy safety framework for neurodivergent children who may engage with toys in unexpected or unconventional ways?
Framework itself is created in a very flexible way that suits all children, because I had a pleasure of working with children of all different profiles and developmental conditions and journeys and colors. um, so the framework itself is actually quite vague for that reason. We cannot create a one solution that fits everyone, but as I said, we can train ourselves to see the hazard for the specific child and situation and tool and toy, and then adapt the rest of it. Brave play is something that is there going to be a question about the sensory later, or
Yeah, it's
can
in it.
I
Mhm.
can I put that one in here
Yeah,
straight
if you
away?
want to, sure. Why not?
For example, children who are sensory seeking or in some sensory systems seek more stimulation, they might play more brave in those areas. For example, a child who seeks more vestibular input, a lot of movement, they will be brave in that sense in more situations than maybe a child who's a little bit wary of those sensations. So it does again adapt to the child, but we need to be aware that for that sensory seeker, he might have been jumping and running around for a long time now. That play might actually be safe for them. For other groups of children and maybe children with disabilities, some of them might play a little bit longer in that safe zone, and they might prefer the safe zone because life and world for them is so unpredictable and so difficult to deal with day in, day out. So when they come maybe back from the nursery, they need something comforting, familiar, some small wins. So they would come and engage with a toy that they know very well, with the same repetitive maybe process or game. And that is valuable in so many ways because it helps their regulation in the moment. And we need to respect and make space for both and just follow the child. They'll show us where on the spectrum they need to be today. And then we adapt our approach and play with them and enjoy it.
Fantastic. You're working on something quite unique right now, a project about mouthing behaviors beyond the age 3. Can you tell us about this?
I can. I'm very proud of that because it's been in the works for a very, very long time. This is specifically for families who have children, young people, maybe adults, who continue that mouthing behavior after the age of 3. So exploring items and toys with their mouth or having a need to orally stimulate themselves, so chewing and a lot of these fidget toys and different objects and textures. That becomes a problem because we have a regulatory gap in all continents, by the way, because after the age of 3, items that are produced are not produced with the assumption that they're going to be put in the mouth, or that they're going to be chewed, or that they're going to be in a prolonged contact with saliva. That means that we have a greater risk for this population because toys that they're using might be of material that slowly releases either different chemicals or dangerous things really that could be released in contact with saliva. That's not tested, and I have to say we cannot expect it to be tested because it's such a small population. And equally, toys will maybe detach and have smaller objects and things which can then cause choking. Mouths and larynx of those children who are older than 3 is also bigger. So what maybe a smaller child couldn't fit in their mouth, these children and young people could. So it's not just theoretical. Unfortunately, we had some tragedies happening in our country, and I'm sure in yours as well. 2 years ago, we've lost Lewis, who was 27 when he passed away due to a sensory toy, a squeaky, squeezy one, which went all the way back into his throat. And then when, normal first aid was applied, where you would be thrusting the back, it just squeezed the toy. It didn't save the child. So from that story, we have Andrea, his mother, who's with us on the project, who's going to put it into perspective for everyone. And we have finally made it to the stage where we are now funded by the Office for Product Safety. We are running workshops. There's going to be materials created both for families, schools, special schools, everyone who's working with children, and a free video course which will be available for everyone, so possibly for people in the USA as well. It's an important thing. I know it doesn't affect many people, but those who it affects, it's their daily worry. And it's something that we cannot ignore. It's very complex to solve, but I do like complex things. So I decided let's try and do at least a little bit. And then a little bit by little bit, there's going to be some more sophisticated strategies, supports. We're going to, as a community, come together and share what works. So that could change quite a few lives.
That's amazing. I could talk to you about this topic all day long, but what's with the one thing you want parents listening to this to remember about toy safety?
Toy safety is dynamic. It is not a static rule that you apply, and you cannot learn all the rules and then be safe. It is, like I've said many times, dependent on the child, yourself, situation, it changes nonstop. So, a toy that's safe for one child today could be very unsafe for the other child or that same child in a different situation. It's a very complex issue, but we shouldn't shy away from it because it's very instinctive and very much reliant on some common knowledge and our us seeing the risks and reacting to them. I would say what I didn't mention before is for many parents, what calms them down, what brings another layer of safety is first aid training. If you haven't done as a parent first aid training, please do it. It's going to help you and your anxiety in those moments of risky play. Because even if they fall down and scratch their leg and something happens, you know that you can help them. And that is a wonderful feeling to have. It solves a lot of these problems that we mentioned. But yeah, safety of toys and play is dynamic, and that's the key here. It's very unique, and I think it's something that we can talk about forever. But if we apply simple principles, we can do it really well.
Where can parents find you and learn more about your work?
Um, on Instagram mainly, it's a toy scope with a dot in between. There is an there's a YouTube channel as well where I put some of the training I have available, and on the webpage as well, toyscope.org, where you have free toy safety training, where you have all the resources, free events and things. So engage with it if you have time, when you have time. Every little bit will mean a lot in the long run for you. So
Thank you, Dr. Muršić, for sharing your insights and challenging us to look beyond the label when it comes to toy safety. Your framework of safe play, brave play, and dangerous play gives parents a powerful way to rethink how they support their child's growth while still honoring their needs for exploration, risk, and autonomy. If you're a parent, caregiver, or educator turning in today, we hope this conversation helps you feel more confident in making those day-to-day decisions around play. Remember, it's not just about the toy, it's about the child, the context, and your presence in the moment. Thanks for tuning into A Parent's Guide to Child Development, where we decode milestones, demystify meltdowns, and occasionally question whether goldfish crackers count as a food group. Spoiler, they do. Make sure to follow us on Spotify and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you never miss an expert tip, breakthrough strategy, or aha moment that can make a big difference in your child's development. It's cheaper than therapy and less messy than glitter slime. We'll be back soon with more expert advice, real talk, and zero judgment. Until then, keep calm and try not to step on any Legos.